the
Welcome to our 37th episode of Apex Instant Tips, coming to you live every Friday at 12:05 Eastern Time for 5 minutes only from Massachusetts. My name is Hayden.
And I'm Anton. And Hayden, I'm glad to be back with you. As we've said a few times, this is InSum's low budget entry into the InSum cinematic universe. And I'm going to make a play on the low budget side that my laptop gets incredibly slow when I'm presenting here on Apex Instant Tips. And that's going to be fully evident today. And I think people should put in the comments that InSum should be purchasing me a new laptop. So if we could get a little groundswell there, that would be
Amen
great.
to that. But I think the audience will be particularly grateful today because we are delivering a tip in response to a mention that we got on Twitter. So someone on Twitter asked us to do a tip on page 0 items.
Yeah.
And so hold on to your hats. Here we have one.
And actually, it's something that I'm really interested in for a few reasons, and hopefully those will come out during the topic, because there's some things that people do. I just think they do them wrong, and I hate to say it that way, but I'll mention that as we go along. So
let's get into it.
So
I will go ahead and share your screen, Anton, if that's all right with you.
Great, yeah. And I suppose we should kick off the timer right away, not cheat at all. So let's see if we can make this happen in 5 minutes and 5 minutes only. Here we go. So this application is all about the customer. As you can see, we're looking at Tammy Bryant right now. If I switch to another page, I'm looking at Tammy's customer orders. This is how much Tammy has spent over time. If I look at the order search, I'm looking at just Tammy's orders. It's all about Tammy. If I switch to another customer, I'm going to get Roy's content. So I flip here. Now this is Roy's content. If I go to the dashboard here, this is also Roy's, what Roy has spent over the last couple of months.
So this would be made clear, Anton, if you copied that customer summary report to each of the pages.
Exactly right. And so this customer region, it would be great if this showed on every page. But the way to do it, as I'm sure folks might guess, is to copy that to actually page 0, not to each of the other pages. If we copy it to page 0, and I'm going to put a sequence of 1 on it just to make sure it's at the top. Now it's going to show up on every page, and I can just delete it from page 1 because it's already going to be on page 1. And you can see it references this application G customer ID. That's how on every page it knows what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this.
So when you pick Tammy from that list, you're setting G customer ID.
Exactly right. When I pick Tammy from the list or Roy, I'm setting G customer ID. And now it's on every single page. It doesn't matter what page I go to. This will be on every page of the application.
So I love this. Does this have any limitations?
It does. Well, first of all, I'm going to go back and I'm going to point out it's on my administration page. So it's not exactly a limitation, but you might want to put a condition on it to only show it on the pages you really want. It's also going to show on your login page, right? So you might consider that a limitation, but it's not really, because you can simply go edit that on page 0 and put some conditions on it. One of the conditions is, in fact, to only show it on certain pages. So if you go down to server-side condition, you can do where it's in the page is in a kappa separated list, that kind of thing. Current page, etc., is in a list. So you can do that. Don't show it on certain pages.
Right. But and for the using G customer ID, does that pose any issues?
That exactly is where I think we can get a lot of improvement. So here I'm looking at Roy, but one of the things I often do is I open things in a new tab, and I'm going to put that tab over here. So here I'm looking at the dashboard for Roy, but I might want to switch and look at, and this is where we can get those comments about how slow my screen is. Here I'm looking at Gary, and now I want to look at Gary. And so I'm going to jump around and look at Gary's content, orders, and so forth. But on my
So
other
you have
tab,
Gary Jenkins in your second tab, and now you're back in your first tab where it should be Roy White.
Right, exactly. And I want to be able to work on 2 customers at once, but I can't because I'm using that G application ID. And that is a challenge because it doesn't matter what tab I'm on, I'm always looking at that same customer. But we can use page 0 to solve that as well. I've done it already in another application just because it's a little bit of clicking around on my slow laptop. But here I have a different application where I've used a P0 item instead of using and I'm going to go ahead and
customer ID.
Instead of G customer ID. Exactly. So here I'm using P0 customer ID. And that means that it's actually going out to every single page. It's P0 customer ID is being passed. It's a hidden item. It's being passed to every single page. And I've put that P0 customer ID into all of my navigation menus. So if we go here and I look at a navigation menu, throughout the application, I'm passing P0 customer ID around. So I'm always sending it along. So that means that I can have Tammy Bryant in this tab, and I can have on another tab Roy White, and I stay here and I still have Roy White. And you can see I'm still in the same Apex session. It ends in 6097. It ends
same
in
session, same application.
Same application. And I'm able to establish a global context that sticks with me when I move between pages.
Right.
And I have a little bit of bugaboo about that. I think Apex applications don't do a good job. Apex developers don't do a good job allowing their applications to be in more than one tab. And I'm going to stop it right now. Yes. I think I hit it.
Well, so I'm going to stop sharing your screen, Anton.
Okay, excellent. Did we stop sharing my screen?
Sorry, my mouse. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So I think we just made it under the wire.
Just under the wire, and we'll get into some further discussion of this topic, and we'll solicit audience questions. But we have a wisdom of the week this week, courtesy of myself, and then we have no off-topic tip, but
so it goes like I said, low budget. What do you expect on the low budget offering? Yeah.
Yes.
Can't have it every week.
It has been 5 minutes, and so if you are only here for 5 minutes, feel free to check out and subscribe on your way out.
Right, all the things.
Yes.
All right. Oh, and don't forget to comment. Right, we all know which comment to leave. Get Anton on your laptop.
But without further ado, let's have the wisdom of the week.
Yeah.
Am I awake or am I dreaming? So far gone, I won't look back. And when I move.
So
I guess the wisdom is when you get old enough, you get a little wisdom.
And as much as I'd love to, I cannot claim credit for that compilation. Mishka lovingly compiled those.
Well, thank you, Mishka. That's excellent. So I guess not much in the way of wisdom either, but I'll take it anyway. Appreciate the birthday wishes. It's not long after we hang up from this, I'm going to tell you my birthday is going to truly start. I've got, I think, one more meeting today, and then I'm checking out. So that's also the low budget aspect. Nobody's paying me to stay extra on my birthday.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Well, so I did allude to another method on the page 0 things, and I will definitely do a tip on this because I think it's an important one. Opening in new tabs and allowing users to have that context flow through is something that I think is like I said, something Apex developers don't think about, and Apex users often get to the point where they realize, oh, I shouldn't even bother opening it in a new tab because it just causes problems. And I don't like that. So what I just showed is a very reliable way and a very good way, but it's a little bit intensive, right? Having to put P0 and push it through and everything. Under some circumstances, it's absolutely the right approach, and you should do it that way. Under other circumstances, there's another approach related to cloning sessions, And I have a technique for cloning sessions when you open in a new tab that has been very successful. Are you familiar with this?
A little bit, and I would love to do a tip on it. So let's definitely do that.
Excellent. Well, I don't know if we have, we have a few things. What are the options missing on page 0 compared to any other page? Very good.
This feels like a trivia question.
Yeah, there are some. Let's see. I know you can do dynamic actions. You can do
processes.
Yeah. But I have run into some things that you can't do, and I'm off the top of my head trying to figure out if I can remember what they are. I use dynamic actions pretty frequently in page 0 because it's a dynamic action I want to happen everywhere. Page processes, but I don't know. There definitely are things, but they're not jumping off the top of my head. But thanks for the birthday wishes, by the way. I see a few of those coming in. How can we allow application on multiple pages?
Perhaps the application item.
I'm not sure what that means. Maybe it is application item, and that's where I think that's where I use the P0 page items to persist them across multiple pages. The other thing that a P0 page item gives you access to that an application item doesn't is in JavaScript, you can reference the P0 session state on the page, whereas a G application item, you can't. The application item, you would actually have to, if you wanted to reference it in JavaScript, you'd actually have to make a call back to the database to see what it is to get it out. But P0, you can. And I guess that's mine, even though I closed it. I thought I had turned it off, but
no one else can hear it besides
nobody else can hear it. Oh, well, you've told me that before. That's my timer going off over and over again. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I do think that generally speaking, application items should be relegated to items that you really want to only set once. That's a good use. Or when you set them, you want them to apply across every tab. And that's something to think about when you're creating an application item is, if my user has opened multiple tabs, should I be using an application item or should I be using a P0 page item? So I'm not sure if that's exactly where that question is, but.
Yeah, there's some values that the user doesn't set themselves or would not plausibly want to change between different tabs. And so those are good candidates for application item, like language. Like, why would you switch languages between tabs?
Yeah. And there are a few things like that. Sometimes I'll set a complicated role like that they're in or something like that. And you do a big complicated query and you set the role, and now you don't have to do that query again. You can just reference the session state.
Right, and the user isn't setting their own role, so.
Right, exactly. So application items work well for that. The other thing I will say is, how can you open pages in other applications from one login application? Oh, that's the question. That's actually incredibly easy. All you have to do is make sure that you have the same cookie name. Once you have the same cookie name, you can then reference any other application and I recommend using the application alias, not the page ID in that case, but you can use the page ID. But if in your authentication scheme, you get a few choices as to what the cookie is. You can either do a shared cookie across the whole workspace, you can do a cookie just for that application, or you can do a custom cookie. If you do a shared cookie across the workspace, if you've logged into one application, you are automatically logged into any other application that also uses the shared cookie. If you use an individual cookie per application, that login does not get shared across applications. But if you use a custom one and you name the cookie the same across applications, you can. So you might have 3 applications that you want to use one authentication mechanism, 3 applications you want to use a different authentication mechanism. Just make sure that the cookie names are the same.
Right.
The other thing, though, that I want to caution you against is it's not a good idea to have multiple applications that share the same cookie, but that also have their own login pages. If you are going to if you're going to have 3 applications, you want to log into one of those and delete the login pages from the other 2, because otherwise you'll have potential for people to log in using those login pages, and it's just not a great idea.
Right. That makes sense to me.
So I hope that answers it. We could certainly do a longer tip on that particular topic. Hayden, how do you use page 0? What's your classic use case for page 0? I'm going to put you right on the spot.
Well, I welcome the question. I actually don't really have an answer. I am among the developers who are criticizing Anton in that I never think about opening applications in multiple tabs.
Oh.
So this is a wake-up call to me to start thinking more about that, because page 0, of course, would be the correct solution. I probably overuse application items.
Yeah, I think that that's the case. I think that it's funny, even within the Apex Builder, I have taken note over the years of when can I open this in a new tab and reliably work versus when should I not open this in a new tab and reliably and be able to work. There are certain pages in Apex that rely on underlying page session state and that kind of thing. I think we did another topic on, why isn't something in session state and when do you use persisted session state and so forth. More and more and more, I think getting away from the database persisted session state is important because of these multiple tab issues.
Right. And it makes perfect sense because I do it to other websites. Why don't I demand the same of my own?
Yeah. I open things in more tabs just all day long. And you can see I've got 4 tabs open, or maybe you couldn't have, but I had 4 or 5 tabs open earlier when I was demonstrating. And that's a skinny down list in any given day. I bet if everybody on the show would be look up and see how many tabs.
For sure. Yeah. So I think this is a good call to action.
Yes. So Mishka, I think, also overuses application items. So good. Well, and so I look forward to doing the follow-on tip on the other approach for
cloning sessions. Yes.
Yeah. So
okay. Well, everyone should stay tuned.
All right. That's all I have. I'm going to go have a birthday. Well, happy birthday again, Anton, and to anyone who's still sticking around. We're at close to the 18-minute mark. I wish you a good Friday, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Do all the things. Take care. Bye.